It's Wednesday night, March 25th, 1987. We're in Lubbock, Texas. 13-year-old Veronica Ann Taylor is spending the night at a relative's home somewhere in this general vicinity. They used to live at the Phoenix Apartments. I can't exactly find where they were. I know there once was an apartment complex right here that they tore down about 4 years ago. But it's in this general area where on that date, around 10 p.m., between 10 and 11, Veronica Ann Taylor was last seen alive. Veronica lived with her mother, I want to say about 1.5 miles, 2 miles away down this road right here. So she was spending the night at a relative's house, and she was going to go to her aunt's house because her aunt was going to take her to school the following morning. I believe she's not getting a ride. I believe it's close enough to where she could just go ahead and walk onto her house. So she leaves this scene right here and doesn't make it to her destination. This is Jane Ann Miller Elementary School. Back in the day, it used to be Murphy Elementary. This is the school where Veronica used to go to. So the next morning, it's around 7 o'clock or so, and Veronica's aunt, she calls the residence where she was supposed to leave and head to her house. And she says, "Is Veronica there?" And they said, "No, Veronica left here around 10 or so and she went to your house." And her aunt says, "Well, she's not here and I don't know where she's at." So they called the school right here and they said, "No, Veronica didn't show up for class." So now her family's getting really worried because Veronica was not the type of kid that she was just gonna go into someone's vehicle that she did not know. And now they're calling all of their family members, they're calling all of their friends, and now they're frantic. They don't know where Veronica's at. As the family is desperately trying to find out where Veronica is at, one of the family members' TV was on the news, and on that morning they were reporting of a story about a body that was found on Farm to Market 1729, which is where I'm walking down right now. On that morning about 7 a.m., somebody was going to work down this road right here. When they drove past a body, they immediately called 911. And when law enforcement arrived to the scene, they found the body of what the newscast described as a young woman. Now, when the family heard this newscast, they didn't put two and two together because they're looking for a 13-year-old girl, not a young woman. But of course, they didn't know that they can't figure out the age of some people because some people are bigger than others. However, it started bothering them when they started describing the body that was found at this scene right here. At that scene right here, it had been snowing the previous night. Not a heavy snowfall, but just a light dusting. And when law enforcement came to the scene, they discovered a girl whose face was just, it appeared that she was beaten up very, very badly. She had her underwear tied around her neck, indicating possible strangulation, and her pants were pulled down to her legs. So they're gonna take her to the coroner's office for an autopsy, but as the family started getting worried, they came out to the scene, and this is where they found out that that young woman that was reported on the news that morning was actually Veronica. Later on, the autopsy report concluded that Veronica was raped and that the cause of death was homicidal in nature via a heavy blunt force object that crushed the left side of her skull. The murder weapon has never been found. Now let's cut to the chase. Veronica's family members know damn well who murdered her. Veronica's aunt at the time was dating a very, very violent individual, and she had discarded him like the piece of trash that he was, and that he would later tell her in his own words that he would do something very, very bad to get back at her for her leaving him. And later on, he would end up spending about 25 years in prison on some child molestation charges. I do not know why that man was not arrested, tried, convicted, and executed. He should have long since been dead. Now, the family members, when they were watching it all go down on the video, they do remember seeing how detectives were handling the evidence. Now, forensics and technology and all that, it's quite a bit different than it was almost 40 years ago. Nowadays, when you're going to use gloves and use paper bags to handle objects and items, back then, detectives were grabbing things with their hands, contaminating the evidence, throwing it in a bag, and next thing you know, many, many years later, the evidence, you're not able to obtain any kind of DNA, or at least the DNA has been compromised. And I'm imagining that this man has been questioned by the police, and of course, he's not gonna confess to that murder or to what he did. So the fact remains that almost 40 years later, we have an unsolved murder of this poor little girl that was failed by many different fronts in this story. Sad to say. All of Veronica's teachers loved her, and she was described as a healthy, bright young child that loved to sing in her church choir. And that was all stolen by a murderous rapist who has not gotten to see judgment done upon him for what he did to this poor girl. If you have any pertinent information related to the case that I brought to you today, please contact the Texas Department of Public Safety. Their number, 1-800-346-3243. 1-800-346-3243. Lamont at large. Out of here. I'll see you on the next video. Peace out.